You're listening to the Spend 10K a Day podcast, brought to you by the performance marketing experts at Mute6. This is your source for cutting-edge insight into the world of online advertising from the team with more Facebook case studies than any other agency on the planet. Here are your hosts, Steve Wise and Stuart Anderson.
Welcome back to the Spend 10K a Day podcast. I'm Stuart Anderson here with Steve Weiss, my good buddy. We're talking about conversion rate optimization, CRO, today. The principle being, of course, that if you're sending great traffic from your Facebook ad campaigns, you want that traffic to convert well. So that's what we're talking about today, is how to make the landing pages, checkout funnel, all the parts of your website that your ad traffic is going to hit, convert really well and end up in customers rather than bounce traffic.
Yeah, so one of the questions I always get, actually before I jump into this, hope everyone had a great Valentine's Day. Everyone listening, hopefully you and your Valentine enjoyed, or if you don't have a Valentine, hopefully next year you'll have a Valentine. So hopefully everyone enjoys post-Valentine's Day. Well, getting back to it, so a lot of questions that's always asked to me specifically is, I have partners, people I work with who have multi-SKU e-commerce sites. What type of ad can we use to bring people in the funnel if you have multiple SKUs? And from a conversion rate optimization, how do you optimize that user experience on your website to really match the Facebook ad? And I always say to that is, how do you build evergreen ad units? Try and figure out which specific product, your kind of hero product, that most people are going to want to come in the funnel with. And then start building content around your specific hero products. Number one, always remember that people are going to come in with your most popular product, what you're known for, what you're best at. Number two, beside that, is always make your CTA buttons. I know it's not a very visual thing on a podcast, but always make your CTA buttons very simple.
Yeah.
I always love using the word next. Something like that, just next. That people will go click on. They're used to clicking on next or go. I think that a lot of people use the buy now button, or you just press buy. And I think making CTA buttons very simplistic is very important. The number three, which is the obvious one, making sure that you have CTA buttons above the fold. That it might sound like a no-brainer, but above the fold is very important.
Yeah, I mean, it's don't make it hard for somebody to figure out how to go to the next step in the process. Make it as easy as possible.
And number four, I think a lot of people use video on their landing pages. I always say, instead of using video on your landing pages, test out videos versus images of your product on your landing page. You'll be surprised that in some instances, video doesn't convert as well as still images on your homepage. Yeah, which is because you're measuring the click-through rates of the people on your homepage to actually your shopping cart. So, split testing video versus images, it might sound like a no-brainer, but it's very important.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So let's talk a little bit about some of the the on-site things. Landing pages are one thing. I get a lot of questions from people about how to optimize product pages. We're talking about multi-SKU e-commerce site, or even just single product e-commerce site. When you're on that page that displays information about a product, Steve, what do you see as the most common mistakes that a lot of e-commerce companies are making on their product pages?
Number one, a lot of words.
Yeah,
I've seen lots of giant word blocks on their e-commerce. I've seen way too many images. I've seen companies using 10 images to describe one product. And that's just too many images. You want to simplify it, and again, having a CTA button that literally people will resonate with, that'll add to cart. I think that's very, very important. And also price testing. I feel like a lot of people aren't price testing enough. We try at Mute6 to do a lot of price testing. Sometimes we'll price test based on even a very granularity in audience in Facebook. We'll take an audience and we'll price test. If we were targeting a lower income audience or a lower demographic audience, we'll try and price test that specific audience to see if this price will resonate with an audience. Obviously, you don't want to do too much of it, because if you're price testing a lot, people are going to start complaining if they saw that product from another place at this price, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's something to be very aware of from a usability perspective. But, I'm always a big favor of, making, another little tweak to the product page is, if your product is sold out, make that very, very bold. I've seen so many companies allow people to buy stuff only to hit the shopping cart and say it's sold out. which frustrates people. I've seen companies just literally take products off the site that are sold out, which is another strategy. It's literally, but you have to make sure that if you do have a product that's already sold out, or you do have a product with limited sizes. I've seen that a lot of limited sizes. I like to put that on the product page before you hit the product description page.
Yeah. How do you feel about having like a notify me when it's available again, option for people when the product is sold out, like the ability to leave their email address and get notified?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I think that if you allow people to really show intent for a product and then really return the favor and say, hey, reach out to them when it's available, I think that's a very simplistic behavior for people. To another brand that does brands that do a lot of gifting, I think one of the biggest conversion rate hikes that we've seen has been simplifying the gifting process.
Yeah. So
if you're buying something, you could press gift and automatically you could put in the gift recipient and boom, 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 and very simple, you know? I think that, a lot of people are doing gifting, and gifting is very, very complicated. So looking at the process in which people buy your product and the purpose that they buy your product for, I think from a psychology standpoint, is the number one thing when it comes to optimizing conversion funnels.
So I want to actually go back a little bit to something you said first when we were talking about product pictures, which is too much text. People are putting too much content on site. I couldn't agree more. And one thing I've noticed some really savvy companies do is they're going to have all the necessary stuff that's there to convince you available right when you land on the page. That text is there. You can read it. It's all the really key information. And then they might have like little toggles. And if you're one of those people who wants to know about the ingredients or the specs and, how long it is and wide it is, all that little information that just isn't really essential, but the nosy, super thorough person wants to know, it's in a toggle and they can click a button that says specs and it expands out. It enables people to access all that information, but it doesn't make it, immediately displayed.
Yes, it doesn't congest the page.
Exactly.
I think when I go and try and check out, I just want a simplistic checkout funnel. I think that I don't want too much content. I don't want too much words. I think that's what confuses me when I go to an e-commerce site. Like today, I was trying to buy tickets to the Hertz Castle on the California page, and this was the worst buying experience ever. I pressed buy now, and it took me back to the store to buy more stuff. I'm like, no, I just want to buy now. Allow me to buy now. Allow me to buy.
Yeah, it's like I've never been a huge fan of some of the recommended products, suggested products, things that happen in the checkout process. So even on the cart page, I get the principle, but a lot of the time I'm just hey, I want to buy this thing right now. This recommended products widget was also on the product page and it was on some other pages I checked out. I haven't added it yet. Let me buy the thing that I want to buy right now. Obviously, that's something you probably want to test. Sometimes it works, sometimes it isn't, or just sometimes it doesn't. But it's a really, really good point. How about let's talk guarantees?
Yep.
Guarantees, social proof, any sorts of graphics that kind of help convince people. Where do you think the best place to have some sort of information about a guarantee is? You would think product page, checkout page, both.
I mean, I think product page, it depends what type of guarantee, but product page next to the product image, social proof on the home page, just showing the, places that's been written up or the publishing houses. On top of that, I just think even at the checkout cart, if you're able to provide some form of scarcity of how many products are available, that could, obviously the timers work great. Everyone loves timers but as a consumer, I never really understood what does the timer mean? Is my computer going to just stop working, or what happens when it goes down to a minute? Does the pages die? I mean, I think that the timer is kind of this one piece of it, which is kind of no one knows what it means. It's kind of like a gamification without actually being gamification. Yeah. So, I think that you have to test, and I think this is a really good segue into what to test. Everyone always asks what do I test? So, number one, the obvious, one of the biggest hikes I've seen is just by stripping the navigation off the checkout page. I've seen so many brands, whether you're on Magento or Shopify, put navigation tabs on their checkout pages, which is always a big, big no-no in my opinion. Number two, testing one variable at a time and testing the CTA buttons underneath all the images. One test over X period of time, just seeing what the lift is. And you could do a lot of these tests, you could use Visual Website Optimizer. You could use Optimizely, but very simplistic tests from a user behavior perspective. Number 3, testing video versus testing images on your homepage.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to increase the click-through rate? Test 4, testing prices. Prices in ads. Put a price in an ad versus not put a price in an ad. I think that's something that a lot of people don't do a great job of, is they market their product, but no one knows how much their product is, and they go to the page, they're like, wow, that's a $200 product. I'm not going to spend $200. So price testing on both the website and price testing in the ad. Number 5, obviously mobile experience, testing out specific types of mobile templates in Shopify, I think is huge. Being able to really understand what's going to speed up the site and mobile, speed up the shopping cart experience.
Yeah. It's a really, really good list. I think the other thing too I would add for testing is, you covered all the big ones in terms of what to test. I think principles of testing, understanding how to test and how to approach testing too is really important. When I talk to people about CRO, especially people in e-commerce, and they're optimizing towards that sales funnel, a lot of people think, I'm going to run this test and it's going to get me like a 50% lift on what I was doing before. And I have to explain to people, it's like, look, I'm really happy you're excited, and there's tons of possibilities, but most tests, they might get you a 10% lift in that conversion rate, 5% lift in that conversion rate. And they're like, okay, that seems like a lot of effort. And I say to them, well, here's the thing. Wouldn't you love a 10% increase in sales, or even a 5% increase in sales? If you're selling, let's say you're making $1 million a month, if you increase your conversion rate by 10%, that could be another $100,000 a month that you're making just from this one test right there. So it's scale. It's incrementally running a bunch of tests and getting a little bit of, small boosts here and there. But over time, that can produce significant results.
Yeah, and remember, the test don't always have to be about the expanded conversion rate. The test could be, you could be running an email test about email capture. We run a lot of email capture tests where we're testing out specific topics on the exit pop. The exit pop is key. So testing out exit pops, testing out post-purchase surveys. I think post-purchase surveys are a treasure trove of data to really, from a consumer insights perspective, of really understanding the consumer, of why they're making this decision to make a purchase. I think not a lot of brands really understand what consumer insights mean. It's like this big word, which no one really understands. And I think, doing tests to really understand the consumer behavior when they get on your website, what their expectations are from actually clicking on an ad to actually browsing through your website is really, really interesting. And maybe you might want to do a test around email capture. Maybe email capture is actually hurting the on-site behavior beyond. Everyone's always, we're always a big proponent of saying, do an exit pop, gather those emails. Well, what if that pisses people off? What if people won't come back? I mean, what if they're really unhappy with this? We've used a lot of different email capture tools. We've obviously used Wheelio. We've used Just Do Know. That they're all great tools, but there's not a solution for everyone. If you have a very serious site, you have a very serious user base, maybe some people don't want to see a flipping wheel, and maybe that's just the reality. So I would say testing, be very thoughtful with your tests and test one thing at a time, and don't always focus on the conversion rate. Test stuff to improve the site usability. I think that's the key. If I were to give one advice of what I learned as a marketer, test. If you improve the usability of the site, you're going to inherently improve the conversion rate, which I think a lot of people don't really, people I talk to aren't really focused on. They're just focused on conversion.
Yeah, it's definitely really important. And I think what's really cool for marketers or e-commerce people out there that want to test and figure out, hey, is this test really driving a better user experience for people, is if you're tracking conversions on your site, let's say you're using Visual Website Optimizer, which I love. If you are measuring the email conversion rate, you can also, if you're an e-commerce store, you should be tracking sales, checkouts as well. You can track both those metrics in the same test. So you can say, okay, well, I know if I'm doing a test about email capture that I wanted to see what's improving the email capture rate, but keep an eye as well on, hey, if I change this, did this also result in a pretty steep decrease in sales? That tells me that whatever we're doing has, as you said, pissed people off and made them not want to check out. All really important things.
Yep. So this podcast, we're talking about mainly conversion rate optimization on site.
Yeah.
This has been focused on that. The next podcast, I know we've been talking about doing one. We're doing email conversion rate. Email, how to do specific split test in email, how to connect your email funnel to your website funnel and to your Facebook funnel. So the next podcast, I'm excited to really sit down with Jason, who runs our email marketing department, talk a little more about email conversion rate optimization. But for today's podcast, I think it's really important to really understand what the user's expectations are, when they check out of the funnel. What is their expectations, and how do you manage those expectations all the way up to the ad side?
Yeah. Well, if you have any questions about conversion rate optimization, or as always, Facebook ads, e-commerce, whatever's on your mind, you can always email us, steve@mute6.com, steve@mute6.com, or stuart@mute6.com, stewart@mute6.com. We'll be back again for our next episode. As Steve mentioned, it's going to be about email conversion rates. Our head of email, Jason Bull, will be joining us. We'll see you again next time for more great e-commerce and Facebook ads content.